Hey, good morning everybody. Today is seed sorting day. So we have almost all of the seeds that we've ordered have come in. Got a couple of minor ones that we're still waiting for. But I'm going to go through our seeds and figure out what needs to be planted, what needs to be started in seed starts, and what's going to be planted or directly sown in the soil. So I'm going to get started. But first, I'm going to show you some of our favorite places to order our seeds from. One of our favorites is Baker Creek, rareseeds.com. We order a lot of seeds there, especially when we want something that's an heirloom. We get a lot of our seeds from Val Nolan and Mother Herb in Cedar Hill, and she carries these, the botanicals. We order quite a few seeds from Johnny's. Johnny's is another good seed supplier that we have had great success with their seeds. And we also order quite a few from Park Seed. Park Seed, we order a lot of the seeds from them and have also had good luck with those guys. But Baker Creek, Johnny's, Val's, and Park Seed are our favorite places to order. So let's get started sorting these guys out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these seeds. The ones in these left sides over here, these and the ones that are on the counter there, are the ones that are going to be going in the market garden. So I'm going to sort those out by the kind and varieties, and then we'll sort them out by what's going to be sown directly and what's going to be a seed start. The ones over here on the right, these are typically things that we're going to experiment with or learn more about. So a lot of those will be planted in our family garden or kitchen garden, and we'll use those to find out how well they grow, how to grow them, and if we like them or not. So we will check those out. So I'm going to get started sorting these guys out. I have all the seeds sorted out by type. So I have all the lettuce mixes right here. I have all the arugula, Swiss chard, kale, spinach, radishes, tomatoes, peppers. These are the herbs, some onion seeds. These are squash, okra, calabrese, green sprouting broccoli, beans. And in the beans I put both the pole and the bush beans together. I have corn, cilantro, all kinds of different cucumbers, different kinds of beets, purple top turnips. You know, I never really knew about turnips too much, but I have really begun to love these guys. These turnips, you can cook them in all kinds of ways. You can put them in your salads. They're similar to potatoes when they're cooked and mashed up, or you can just eat them raw. They're really good. I've really learned to like those guys. And then we have all kinds of carrots, melons, cantaloupe, and pumpkins, and I think I said squash already. So got them all sorted. Next thing is, which ones are we going to do from seed starts and which ones will be direct sown. So some of those are obvious, some of them we'll have to just make decisions about. So I'll get started on sorting that out and what we're going to do in seed starts. Alright, so after looking through all of the seeds and the way that these are all sorted out by type, what I've decided to do is the ones that are obvious that will just get directly sown in the soil, like corn and beans, and root vegetables like beets and carrots, those will obviously get started in the ground. But things like the tomatoes, those obviously are going to be started from seed starts. It will start now. The peppers will start now. And some of the other ones like the lettuces, the kales, maybe even some of the squash plants and things like that, and cucumbers. I'm going to try this year and start some of those directly from seed starts and leave some that will direct sow. So that'll also help us with our crop rotation, being able to get things in early and then get things in when the temperatures and soil temperatures outside are right. So I think that's how we're going to start them and sort them. I'll just kind of decide on the fly which one we start in seeds, in seed starts. Starting today, we'll start planting some of those, and the other ones we'll just direct sow when the time is right outside. All right, so this is kind of an experiment. Not sure how well that'll show up on the on the video, but I wanted to show you, this is our spreadsheet, and this is our spreadsheet that shows where all those seeds will be planted. So these darker green rows here, all these dark green rows, those are 30-inch beds. All of these beds over here are 40 feet. These beds are 50. And these are the rotational beds, the ones that I'll continue to work on the soil on through the spring, so that these crops can be rotated to that side, or all of these can be rotated wherever they need to be. First couple of rows out here, we're planning to do some flowers. And of course, this is the greenhouse, which is has cauliflower, broccoli, spinach, and carrots in it right now. So we'll have to figure out or decide what's going to go in there in the spring through summer. So we'll get to that when the time is right. So I'm out on our seed starting or potting house, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what we do to mix our soil and get it ready for the seed starts. So first thing I do, it's kind of a 1-to-1 on soil and peat moss. I'll get a handful of peat moss, and then I have 2 different organic potting mixes. I'm going to use a couple handfuls of each one of those, and then I add a small handful of vermiculite and a small handful of perlite. And I'll mix those two together, or mix all of those together. A lot of large clumps in most of these potting soils, especially the organic ones that have a lot of composted materials in them. So let me show you what we do next. All right, so the next thing is we've got this little screen that says hardware cloth. This is 1/8-inch hardware cloth on a 2x4 frame, and it just fits right over a wheelbarrow. So I take that soil I just mixed together and I screen it over this screen. We feel it's important, or find that it really helps if we get a lot of the larger chunks, these large pieces of sticks and debris out of the potting mix, the seed starting mix. This also works really well for the soil pods. We use these to make soil blocks out of. We have a small one and a larger one, so this mix also works really good for that. But as you can see, I get a lot of the large debris out of that, and I take that large debris, I don't throw it out. I've got a bucket here, I put it all in the bucket, and that goes back into our own compost. So what I end up with is a loose, nice soil that'll work really well in for the seed starts. Nice and loose, and no big clumps in there. So that's how we make that potting mix. So after I've got some of the soil mixed up, I'm going to go ahead and put it in whatever types of trays. I like these 10-20 types that we can put in another tray that does not have holes, so we can bottom water them. This method will work with whatever kinds of seed trays you have. But the next thing is, I'm just going to put the soil in these trays. Fill all the trays really well. Put a little bit extra over the top of them, and as I'm going, I'm also patting this down, so I'm actually compressing just gently or just slightly, putting some of that in there tightly, moving it around, filling in these pods really well. And once I'm convinced that they're all full and in pretty good shape, nice and tight, and I just rake off the excess off the top. And then my seed tray is, well, if I hadn't spilled it, but my seed tray is ready to go. So we can just put this in there. We'll water this in real good, and this tray will be ready for our seeds. All right, so I've got a 10-20 tray with no holes in it, and I've got about a half gallon of water. I'm going to put about half of this, about 2 quarts or about a quart in this tray. We use the water that's filtered through our Berkey. That way it removes as much of the city water contaminants as possible. So you just don't want to use a lot of chlorinated and all the other treatment chemicals that go in city water. End up using all of that. but this really needs to soak up a lot of water. That soil is really dry. So we'll set that in there. When you set the tray in there, you should be able to feel and see, and then you can lift it back up. And this tray is not quite deep enough, so I'll have to add a little bit more water. But then you just set the tray in there with that water, and it will, we're gonna make sure it will soak up enough water. If you don't have these kind of trays, you can always just water from the top. Traditionally, this just saves some time watering. So if you don't have any kind of filter to get the city contaminants, the city water contaminants out before you water your plant, we also have a rain catchment system here, and we can use the rainwater that we harvest for those plants and seed starts as well. Nothing in there but rainwater. Also want to mention, a lot of people buy plants from nurseries. When you buy plants from nurseries, you buy them in flats. Sometimes you get seed or get trays like this that hold pots that the pots come in. We save those anytime we get them. If you have a friend that has extra ones, you can get them from friends or a nursery that might donate them. But also the things that other seeds or other plants have come in the past, we save these. They fit right inside these, and you can see I've got one plotted up there. But being thrifty and being able to save these from other places is a huge money saver. The other thing is you can buy these. You can buy these from Johnny's, Bootstrap Farmer, and quite a few other places online. Even the seed cups or pots you can buy anywhere else. But as much as possible, we like to reuse things that we've used in the past and collect these things so that we're not spending extra money on them. So when you have your seed trays or your pots ready, before you plant them, you want to make sure that the soil is nice and wet. So we're going to use the rainwater out of our rain catchment system and just use this little watering can and get all of the soil nice and wet. Make sure, you may have to water these a couple of times. It's a lot of soil and it will soak up a lot of water with this mix of peat moss, soil, and perlite. You want to make sure they're very nice and wet. After they're dry and your seeds are planted in them, one thing you don't want to do is displace the seeds in the pots. Keep them moving around or have them float to the surface. Just don't want to displace them. So we just water from the top then, and we'll spray these from the top once the seeds are planted. That way we don't displace them by watering with a can or a hose or something that would move them around too much. I have one of these flats or trays ready to go. So there's 20 on this tray. It's already been saturated. It's nice and wet, nice wet soil. So then I'm going to take something small. I'm going to put little indentions here for the seeds and get ready to plant those. So usually with these I want to make sure I get germination, so I'll put 2 seeds, just space them out just a little bit. We're going to put a couple of, these are the Jedi F1. They're like a jalapeno, they're hot. So I'll put generally with just 1 seed in each of these little indentions. And I'll put 2 in each pot to make sure I have them to germinate. So after I get the seed in place, I'll take a little bit of the dry soil and just sprinkle a little bit of the dry soil over the top of those to cover them. And once they're covered, since the rest of the soil is very wet, then I'll just take my spray bottle and I'll get those soaked in real good. And using the spray bottle, I don't displace the seeds or the soil that's on top of them. So that's ready to go. So as they say, it's kind of a rinse and repeat operation. I'll just go through all of these and start getting our seeds planted that we're going to grow this year. All right, so one of the other benefits of these microgreens and the setup we have for them is it's also a good way to start germinating these garden plant seeds. So I'm going to put these in here, the Jedi F1s that I just planted. And so we have this plastic and we have heat lamps down at the bottom. So generally for these seeds we want to keep them at least 65, if not hotter, preferably around 70 or 75. But I'll continue to get the seed trays planted, and we'll move some of them in here until we can get until I can get the temperatures regulated inside the seed starting house, where outside temperatures are better. But the end of January is still pretty cold, so I'm going to start some in here, especially the peppers. They take a little bit longer to germinate. Another tip I want to give you guys today, I think my wife Alice picked these little popsicle sticks up at maybe the dollar store or somewhere. I'm not sure where she got them, but these little popsicle sticks are really good for writing the labels on. The one thing that happens though is that as they get wet from watering and the wood wicking up moisture, is the writing on there will get to where it's hard to read. So she had the brilliant idea to, after you write on them, take a piece of packing tape and put it over it. Put the packing tape over it like this and just wrap it around. And we're going to give that a try and see if that will help those stay where we can read them much longer, because now it has a plastic coating on top of it, and I believe that will work out very well. So we'll continue on. I'll get all of the others. I think the next seeds I have to plant are the let's see, I've got to do cayennes. And we saved seeds from last year, so I'm going to do cayenne next, and the hot Anaheim peppers. We won't need quite as many of those, but we'll do about a half a tray of each and see how it goes.